before I proceed, meron talagang prepared speech ang Presidente Baskisaan, pero hindi ko ito trabaho, sabihin ko sa inyo prangka-prangka. At as important as reconfiguring the territory, the local, it is not good just to deliver a two-page speech. Sabi ko sa kanila, i-dovetail ko yung kay Kagi pati kay sa dumadaang mga speeches. But before that, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, Presidential Advisor on Peace Process Jesus Dureza, Presidential Spokesman Harry Roque, and other members of the Cabinet. Baka hindi nyo na bagong kilala natin si Secretary Roque, formerly a congressman. He's now the Bangsamoro Transition Commission Chair, Gadzali Jafar, Armed Regional Governor Mujib Hatamin, MILF Chairman Alhaji Murad Ibrahim, MNLF Central Committee Chairman Yusuf Jikeri, fellow workers in government, mga kapatid kong mga Moro at ang mga Pilipino. I'd like to address myself to the nation this time. I plead to all Filipinos listening now to understand the problem and maybe, just ponder on it and sleep on it tonight, and maybe you'd be enlightened because of what we are now trying to solve is one of the hardest in my administration. Maybe the hardest of them all. But as I have promised, as a centerpiece of my election was really the federal setup of government. And one we're talking about now, limited to the issues, as far as I'm concerned, actually what is at stake here is the preservation of the Filipino Republic and to correct historical injustice, was and still is. But let me discuss with you the second issue. Historical injustice. When was it? Well, many, many centuries ago. Before the coming of the imperialists, as we are now and had been before, we are brothers and sisters of the Malay race. As a matter of fact, you study maybe a little bit about the history of the migration. We belong to the Sri Visayas Empire of the Malay race. But about so many centuries ago, 500 I would say, till now, you reckon the years, the Spaniards came and colonized us for 400 years. Then the Americans came and stayed there for 50 years. We were a subjugated people. But I do not have an issue with God Allah. God Allah is perfect. He charts the destiny of men and nation. But somehow we humans must contribute our sweat towards the realization of God Allah wants us to do. Yan ang nandito ngayon. The historical injustice began when we were slaves of other nations. Hindi ito ngayon lang. And over the years, naturally, I said, with the coming of religions, I have nothing. I said, I do not have an issue with any particular religion. It's up to us human beings to make the most out of it. Now, itong problema ng ating bayan, inabot ito over the periods of years. And oppression, and violence, and unnecessary killing, sometimes for no reason at all. It has bugged this nation for so long a time. Mindanao was taken over first by the Spaniards, then the Americans came and introduced the system of governance in the island of Mindanao. Used to be ruled by one Department of Mindanao. And in the process invited other tribes to come here and enjoy the fertile land. No problem with that, actually. Mindanao at that time was so big that you cannot even measure it by any yardstick or a device of measurement. Malaki. And I suppose that there was really no animosity because of our color and our culture, and even in the dialect. But somehow, the imperialism created a monster by giving away the lands and adopting, I said, yung mga homestead, yung mga cadastral land. And sadly, to the exclusion of many. And most of them who were left behind or left out were really the Lumad here and most of the Moro people. And over time, it created, he said, a monster that defied for a piece of real estate here and there, created wars amongst us, and killing. Yung Moro ho, at nakikinig kayong mga kababayan ko, naiwan, kinuha yung mga ancestral land. They were the first. Actually, if you are not a Moro, if you are a Christian, then you cannot be a native of Mindanao. Well, nauna ang Islam by almost, well, I used to read when I was a congressman, diyan sa Malaysia, yung mga library nila. Some say 100. I'd put it about something like 80. My simple mathematics or arithmetic could say to me. So nauna dito ang Islam. About that time, talagang Muslim na ang Mindanao. But with the coming of imperialism, I said, pumasok dito at marami ng religion. Fine. It's all about God. It's all about Allah. Nothing strange there. But the fight for the territory began. And the dream of the Moro people was just to retake what they were or they had at that time. Violence after violence after violence. In 1972, kumukuha kami ng bar. Just Dorisa was ahead. Ako naiwan ako sa klase kasi hindi man ako valedictorian ng kagaya niya. So, well, I used to be here. Kasama ko si Jun Matalam noon. I was still a young boy. I was roaming around Cotabato. Sila Jimbo Sindaw. I was enjoying the place. And maybe because I felt safe. So, ganun ho ang nangyari. Now, if we do not solve this problem, the fundamental issue of historical injustice, hindi ito matatapos. Hindi talaga ito matatapos. I've been saying that before, even in any crowd that we have to have a solution. If I were to have a choice, then it should be my time, kung pwede lang, and we can work out a way out of this quagmire. It cannot go on. Your children cannot kill my children. Ang pamilya ko mismo, pati, alam ninyo yan. I have a branch of my family, puro Moro, Islam. Meron rin akong branch sa pamilya ko na Kristiyanos. Saan ninyo ako ilagay? Yan ang problema, kaya interesado ako ng ariglo. Kung maaari lang sana, let's talk about peace, peace and peace. As we build and build and build our country. Nothing wrong with that. It's a matter of talking. Now, there are so many drafts coming from Noor, coming from Kagis, Grad, and everybody else, and the scholars, and also UP is coming up with a position paper. Ang akin, it must be inclusive. Lahat, walang maiwan dito sa peace talks na ito. The MIMF, the MNLF, lahat na lumad, kailangan kasali. But I will now state my condition. I will work very hard for it. I will ask Congress to a special session just to hear you talk about this in Congress. Sabi ko, ito, sagrado to. Importante to. At mahalaga to because it would involve eventually, if the people wills it, a new structure for the entire country. Kung hindi, then let us work out a way. Basta maibigay natin sa ating mga kapatid, lalo na sa Moro, ang arrangement na acceptable sa kanila. Alam ko, realist kayo. At wala namang umaangkin dito sa mundong ito. We are all passing temporarily in this planet. In the end, it's always towards what is heaven for the Christians and for the Muslims. Wala ba tayong we fight here, we kill each other. Then if we are in heaven, what are we supposed to do? It's ever so temporary, mind you. So let us work on the historical issues. Land, the social injustices that were committed since then. Well, apparently, the Christian governments has had an edge all along because they were in power holding the national structure. And all the time, medyo pasensya. I said, but this cannot go on. Even if you say that you'll have an interregnum of how many years, it will not suffice. Or then you'll be passing the problem to the next and to next generation. And so what do you think? What would be the sentiment of my grandson towards his grandsister? Ipasa mo lang eh. Ngayon nandito na ako, I made it a centerpiece. Of course, not all the time. But in all, I endeavored really to mention it. Almost half of the time, I was talking about itong mga historical injustice. It's a matter of self-preservation. For whom? You. For me? For them? For all of us. That is a matter of survival. what will we get if we go into a war again? With the coming of the ISIS, the taking of the name of Allah in vain, killing people, destruction, violence, along is what is, look what happened to the Middle East. They say that, there's a lot of theories about who's responsible. But, we cannot go back in time. We must avoid the pitfalls of violence. Look at what Iraq, Libya, Syria, once the thriving center of the Muslim faith. Tignan mo. Where is ISIS now? It's on the edge. And I've been telling you, if they lose the land base, they will scatter. And why would we allow barbarians to come here and destroy our way of life? We are not even a mix of Arabs. We are Malay. Now, if you want to change the Filipino Philippines because of King Philip, it's fine with me. It's a matter of renaming everyone in the Constitution. Because Magellan came here, and he said, I discover for the King of Spain, Philip, and I will name this island the Philippines. Maswerte ka. Makita ka na lupa, tapos iyo na. Name Philippines. But that is just, a name of it. We can always do away with it in due time. I'm sure our children would, somehow, Filipino and Christians would correct this kind of Philippines. It's box of imperialism. That's why I don't, have you ever me call Malacanang Palace? I see my office. I don't really sitting there and to remember that my predecessors were all, well, almost half of it were aliens and the conquistadores. Hindi ako naliligahe. Baka akala nyo kayo lang ang masakit. I do not say Malacanang Palace. I just say, see me at my office, in my office. Hindi ako nagtatang palace. Hindi na panahon ito ng... So that is correction of the social injustice or the outright injustice, and then crafting something which would preserve the lives of Filipinos. But I will only work with one thing in mind. There must be one nation for all and one republic for all, a republic of the Philippines for all of us, Moro and Christians alike. Yan ang hindi ko maibigay. Now, I am doing everything to avoid a breakage or fissure somehow in Mindanao. I'm going to walk the hundreds of miles, not the mile, as a first step. But there has to be a condition that is for all. The Republic of the Philippines must be one, and the preservation of all Filipinos, Christian, Muslims, and all, must be there to unite us. Then we will be happy in the goodness of the fullness of God's time. I am sure it is just a simple equation of correcting an injustice, redistributing whatever is just compensation and all. But these are all legislations. It can come later. But the basics must be there. And there must be autonomy. And you must be allowed to enjoy all your natural resources. Pero naman, maghingi ako ng konti. Paano ko patakbuhin ng Malacanang? Wala man akong pera kung hindi sa taxpayer. Konti lang. You can enjoy 60, 40, or 90, 10, whatever. But we must, I said, have only one. I cannot bargain it away. I cannot give. I told the communists, and I'm telling it to you all now, that I cannot give what I do not own. Inyo lahat yan eh. It's for the Filipino people. You decide. Not me. Pero ako, I'm just stating na to the other tribes in Luzon, Visayas, kawalang mga Bisaya, sabta na ninyo. Wala noon tamangilog kay giimbitar ta. Pumunta kayo ng Mindanao because it's fertile and everything. And I said, ang Mindanao ni Adto dako, malaki ang Mindanao. It was a vast expanse of land. But Mindanao na, we are now on the fourth industrial revolution. Plenty of people, talagang lumiit ng lumiit. Kung malaki na sana ito, di walang, but you know, you have to have land to develop, to eat, to earn. Manufacturing in the agricultural sector is lagging. Why? Because it cannot propel itself into prosperity for so long as there is violence in the countryside. Especially, ang nakita kong walang kwenta to the NPAs. Be careful with that. Kasi pag niyaya ninyo, even the Arab money, they would still ask, baski sino ang nandyan. And that is extortion. It thrives on extortion. It is not revolutionary tax. Ilang beses kinakita dito sinusunog yung mga sasakyan. You think it's done by the Moro here? Of course not. I should know it. Sila nagsusunog ng mga dito. And even in your territories. It behooves upon the Moro, all of you, and us, to maintain that kind of peace that we desire. Because pagdating ng panahon, when we are given the empowerment now to run our lives, run your own economy, create your own gross domestic product locally, magkakaproblema kayo niyan eh. And even the terrorists. Then you'll just have to go to war again. We tried another war and we have to deal with another war. But we were willing to talk peace. But for the communists, let me be very clear. One republic, no coalition. Government must be the sole authority and we exercise it. After all, we'll have the election. You'll have the elected leaders. Whether you like it or not, you must be represented in Congress. Walang problema yan. So, ang proposal ko ganito, I will ask Congress, I said, one day, one session, Nur, Kagi, and all should be there to present their platform. And then we will work out, if it's not in consonance with each other, then we work out, but at least Congress and the Filipino people should be given a day to hear you out on what we intend to do. Me, I support you. That is my promise. Do not ever question me. Delay, of course, it entails delay. So many marami man dito galing. Nabili sir. Jesus Dores, sir. You've been congressman. Ayan, si Toto. Alam ninyo, it takes forever to move. Somebody has to push it. Because there are, alam mo na, thousands of concerns. But I will impress upon them that you have to devote even 1 day or 2 days. Hear them out. Hear us from Mindanao. Ako taga roon. Ako, sabi ko, kasali ako dito sa gulo pag hindi ito nareglo. So, and I would be blamed by you and by many, sabi nitong gago na to, sabi niya, he will work it out. And that is why I will work it out. Tapos, ipakita ko sa inyo, talagang hindi workout exercise. Talagang I will work on it. And at least give you the idea of how the effort goes along. What we need is to be heard. I said, one, just do simple in the equation. That is correct injustice committed against the Moro people and all of the Lumad here. Second is to preserve the Republic. That is all there is to it. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
And we just have to abide by the proceedings, by the rules, and let us see later what will come out in the whole proceedings. And if the complainant cannot substantiate his allegations, then by all means the committee should dismiss the complaint. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, in like manner that we're giving this opportunity to the complainant, we will give the same and equal opportunity to the respondent. No? So, she may not attend this, but when her time comes, when we ask the respondent to already present her defense, that should be the proper time for her to articulate on all of those matters that she feels are not will not sustain the charges. So we will come to that at the proper time. So anyway, this is preliminary discussion. Majority Leader, dahil wala pa kaming quorum kanina, nag-preliminary discussions lang kami. And we will call an executive session. Pero kanya po kami nag-call ng executive session to deal with the request of the many witnesses or invited guests who seek a deferment of yung appearance nila in today's hearing, because they clarified that they needed the authorization from the Supreme Court and Bank because of a prior internal policy and rule of the Supreme Court as well. And the chair expressed that or manifested that we will respect the internal rules, as we call on them to also respect the internal rules of the impeachment committee. So that is where we are in this, and we are just having healthy exchanges of our ideas and position. So anyone else? Compido, please.
Yeah, just to comment on the issue raised by Congressman Kit Belmonte. With all due respect to Congressman Belmonte, the issue on case build-up, I think this is not a case build-up, but as we have maintained before this committee and ruled upon by the chair last hearing, that the proceedings before this committee, before this impeachment committee is akin to preliminary investigation, wherein we are determining whether there is sufficient ground to engender a well-founded belief that the allegations alleged in the complaint has been committed and that the respondent should be held for trial. So, in proceedings with the determination of probable cause, we are but required considered as investigating officers, members of this committee, to engage into a searching questions and answers before the witnesses that will be presented before us in this committee. in order to arrive at a probable cause and whether there is a well-founded belief that those allegations in the Gadon impeachment complaints are true and that respondents should be held for trial. So, siguro mali po tawagin na case build-up to.
Well, thank you, my friends. Kaya ako clarify. Walang nagmamoderate, singit na ako. Kaya ako clarify, kaya ako tinanong kanina yan. And kinote ko lang yung precise words ng chairman natin. So, tama, sinabi na ni Kong Marcoleta, sinabi ninyo, pero kinokote ko lang yung eksaktong sinabi ng chairman natin, nung clarify ko yung sinabi niya kanina. Tinanong ko, probable cause lang ba to? Sabi niya, hindi, okay to, kaya naghahanap nga tayo ng mga evidence. I'm just quoting the chair. So, hindi pa naman tayo formal session. So, okay itong kwentuhan natin. Ang sinasabi ko lang, yun ang sinabi ni Chair, sinundan ko lang.
Mr. Chair.
Anyway, we will discuss this in executive session. So, doon na po tayo kaliwanagan dyan. Congrab.
Well, on this matter of case build-up, there is really nothing to build up if the case is already built up. I think we're all agreed in that. I understand why some people really think that we are building up the case of the complainant because, frankly, as of now, the complaint is based mainly on hearsay and verified documents. So I guess what we're trying to see here, or do here, is to bring in the witnesses and the documents for and in behalf of the complainant. And that's what makes some people think that we are building up the case of the complainant. That is all.
Mr. Chair.
Veloso.
Before the discussion goes haywire, I have reviewed the provisions of the Constitution, the provisions in our impeachment rules, and these are the following things that I have observed. One, what we have is actually a purely administrative proceeding labeled as impeachment proceeding. It is an administrative dismissal proceeding. If you take a look at Section 2, Article 11 of the Constitution, it says, and I will read, the President, the Vice President, the members of the Supreme Court, the members of the Constitutional Commissions, the Ombudsman may be removed from office on impeachment for and conviction of culpable violation of the Constitution, treason, bribery, graft, and corruption, other high crimes, or betrayal of public trust. All other public officers and employees may be removed from office as provided by law, but not by impeachment. So here lies the distinction between impeachable officials like the Chief Justice and an ordinary employee. Well, the grounds for impeachment are in Section 2 and the mandate of the Constitution on what a public employee must do as a public employee, they are provided for in Section 1. How do we go about this? Purely administrative dismissal proceeding. The Constitution also provides in Section 3, Paragraph 8, Congress shall promulgate its rules on impeachment to effectively carry out the purpose of this section. Okay. We are now at a point where we are trying to come up with, in fact, articles of impeachment. This actually will be founded on the pieces of evidence that our witnesses will have to supply this committee. The committee shall have the power to issue compulsory practices for the attendance of witnesses and the production of documents and other related evidence. This is the last sentence in paragraph 2 of section 6. Gadon is not expected as a complainant to be, in fact, a competent witness on all of the allegations he had. That's why early on, we were convinced, we were in fact limited in the determination of sufficiency in form as to whether or not, first, there was a verified complaint, second, it was endorsed. But that's already water under the bridge. At this point, Mr. Chair, again, it behooves this committee to issue the necessary subpoena, duces tecum ad testificandum, in order that we can come up with pertinent evidence that will answer the evidentiary requirement in Section 6 of our impeachment rules. Let us not put a lot of weight, expectation on complainant Gadon. The endorsers, congressmen, are equally complainants like Mr. Gadon. Otherwise, Mr. Chair, if we will have to come up with the strict rules of procedure in the rules of court, nobody can be impeached. The crimes, the grounds for impeachment provided for in Section 2, Article 11, are basically committed in private confines. Nobody can just be a witness, for example, to corruption. Nobody can be a witness, in fact, unless you're a member of the court, to what happened in the course of the senior citizen's case. I want to say something, but there has already been a ruling of the chair that we discussed this in executive session, because what really bothers me is reading the letters of the witnesses the committee has subpoenaed. It would appear that we can be stopped by the Supreme Court in going ahead with our mandate to come up with pieces of evidence that will constitute our articles of impeachment to be referred to the Senate. But again, please take a look at Section 1, Article 8 of the Constitution. The Supreme Court can exercise its power of certiorari, looking into the question of whether or not we are committing grave abuse of discretion. That's in second paragraph of Section 1. But that's all. I have not seen in the Constitution a provision which says that the Supreme Court can direct its employees not to reveal important documents that would constitute strong evidence in an impeachment case. We have Section 5 on certiorari, on the powers of the Supreme Court, which cannot be reduced by Congress. But again, I will be discussing this in our executive session.
Yes, please, so that we can proceed. I understand one of the witnesses is here, Mr. Canlas. I do not know if there was a reply from either BIR or UP on our invitation. May I direct the COMSEC to please call on UP and UP President Danny Concepcion and BIR Commissioner Cesar Dulay find out what we can expect from their agencies and an explanation as to whether or not they can attend this hearing, similar to what was observed by the other invited guests who are notably members of the Supreme Court. No? So we need an explanation at this point in time. So having said that, as I intimated earlier, and there being no more matters that the members would like to raise, we will now move to we will now call to order, and after we have already convened, we will suspend and go into executive session. So this impeachment proceeding is now called to order. May I request the COMSEC to please call the roll of members.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Roll call of members of the Committee on Justice. The Honorable Chairman, Rinaldo Umali. The Honorable Senior Vice Chairman, Vicente Veloso. The Honorable Vice Chairpersons, 봠 Henry Wominal, Arnulfo Fuentebella, Striker Villa. Regular members, Honorable Representatives Roy Loyola, Marlene Primicias Agabas, Jerry Treñas, Lucy Gomez, Rosemary Arenas, Bayani Fernando, Ruel Peter Gonzaga, Ramon Rocamora, Federico Sandoval II, Horacio Swansing Jr., Jericho Jonas Nograles, Lawrence Lemuel Fortun, Munir Arbison, Arthur Yap, Divina Grace Yu, Noel Villanueva, Manuel Luis Lopez, Edward Vera Maceda, Jose Christopher Belmonte, Kakabag-Aw, Josephine Ramirez Sato, Xavier Jesus Romualdo, Juliet Marie Ferrer, Edwin Ong, Rodel Batocabe, Ron Salo, Sherwin Tugna, Carlos Roman Oy Barreta, Salvador Belaro Jr., Antonio Florendo, Mahmoud Mending Jr., Eminent Aglipay Villar, Michael Romero, Luisa Lowen Quaresma, Rodante Marcoleta, Robert Ace Barbers, Ferdinand Biron, Rodolfo Albano III, Romeo Acop, Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Abigail Faye Ferrol Pascual, Harleen Nila Bayan III, Manuel Monsur del Rosario III. The ex-officio members of the House Committee on Justice, the Honorable Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez, the Honorable Deputy Speakers Reneo Abu, Eric Singson, Freddy Nil Castro, Romero Kimbo, Mercedes Alvarez, Gwendolyn Garcia, Marlene Garcia Albano, Pia Cayetano, Sharon Garin, Linabel Ruth Villarica, Bai Sandra Sema, Ferdinand Hernandez, Frederick Abueg, Rolando Andaya Jr., the Honorable Majority Leader Rodolfo Fariñas, the Honorable Senior Deputy Majority Leader Juan Pablo Bondoc, the Honorable Deputy Majority Leaders Arthur Defensor Jr., Roger Mercado, Ann Hofer, Vincent Crisologo, Aurelio Gonzalez, Victoria Isabel Noel, Gerald Anthony Gullias, Arnel T., the Honorable Minority Leader Danilo Suarez, the Honorable Senior Deputy Minority Leader Jose Atienza Jr., the Honorable Assistant Minority Leader Harleen Nila Balion, the Honorable Deputy Minority Leaders Alfredo Garbin Jr., Eugene Michael De Vera, Anthony Bravo, Luis Jose Angel Campos Jr., and the Chairperson of the Committee on Accounts, the Honorable Elenita Milagros Ermita Buhain. Your Honor, the roll call shows that 18 regular and ex-officio members responded to the call.
There being 18 members when the quorum only requires total membership of or presence of 10 members, the chair hereby declares the presence of a quorum. Just before we go on executive session, I am in receipt of a letter from the Honorable Edsel Lagmana. He's here right now, and he is requesting that following the if I may quote the pertinent provision, following the doctrine that every rule has an exception, I am making this urgent request as an exception to the ruling of the chair and the Committee on Justice that non-members of the committee can attend but not participate in the proceedings. The only matter that Congressman Lagaman wishes to do is to be able to propound clarificatory or cross-examination questions on Supreme Court Associate Justice Teresita L. De Castro. Now, of course, the committee has already ruled on this, and this is a matter that stands, and therefore, unless I am or this committee will reconsider its earlier position on the matter, I regret that I cannot take action or grant this request. So, but anyway, I have mentioned this to the committee. Again, this is a matter that is subject to the committee's reconsideration.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I remember that I moved in the last hearing to settle once and for all the participation of non-members in this committee. And the committee had voted on that motion that henceforth only members of the committee shall be allowed to propound questions, actively participate in the committee hearings. And so that, with all due respect to the very esteemed gentleman from Albay, the Honorable Edsel Lagman, his presence here, I believe, is welcome. But I believe also that whatever questions that the Honorable Lagman may wish to ask, we have also the very able representation of the Honorable Kit Belmonte and the Honorable Rav Rocamora, who may propound those questions which the Honorable Lagman may wish to ask.
Okay, I guess that is a point well taken, and perhaps proper coordination be made with the members of the committee for purposes of amplifying those points that the Honorable Lagman would want to raise directly to Justice De Castro. Anyway, I don't think they will be here until Wednesday, and again, as I earlier intimated, we will suspend this hearing and move to Belmonte Hall for an executive session. Thank you, and the session is hereby suspended.
That was the House Committee on Justice suspending the hearing on the impeachment complaint against Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. They are going on an executive session. Earlier, Chairman Ray Umali of the Justice Committee said that they would need to discuss several administrative issues, including the request of several associate justices of the Supreme Court to defer their appearance. The committee had extended invitations to associate justices of the Supreme Court to attend the hearing today, but earlier Umali read the letters of these justices saying that while they are willing to attend the hearing of the impeachment complaint on Sereno, they still need clearance from the Supreme Court and bank. That's said to be according to the internal rules of the court. So that will be one of the issues that the committee will talk about in the executive session. Also, Chairman Umali a while ago indicated that one of the resource persons invited to the hearing today, reporter ʍᴏ Canlas, is present, and he's expected to face the committee when the session resumes. The hearing resumes later after the executive session. If you recall, ʍᴏ Canlas was identified by a complainant, Attorney Larry Gadon, as the one who supposedly was able to talk to Associate Justice Teresita De Castro. De Castro reportedly told Canlas about several questionable decisions and rulings by Chief Justice Sereno. So he is expected, Canlas is expected to face the Committee on Justice later. This is still the hearing to determine the probable cause, whether there is probable cause to proceed with the impeachment proceedings against Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno. The schedule for the hearings are starting today. until Wednesday. Committee Chair Reynaldo Umali also indicated